They laughed when I said I'd buy the lake. They called me a fool, a dreamer. The guy who got fined for fishing where he didn't belong. But now, the same people who once kicked me out stand outside my gate, staring through the fence at the water they used to call theirs. And I'll tell you something. I didn't lock them out for revenge. I did it to protect what they destroyed. It started with a whistle. A sharp, metallic sound that sliced through the early morning fog like a blade. I was sitting on my usual rock, the one that jutted out just far enough to dip my toes into the water, when the voice followed. "Hey, you can't fish here." I turned, half expecting to see Old Man Harris from the ranger's post, but instead it was a young officer, new face, pressed uniform, mirrored sunglasses that hid his eyes. He looked barely old enough to shave. "I've been fishing here since I was a kid," I said, reeling in the line slowly. "My dad taught me right here. It's public land." "Not anymore," he said flatly, stepping closer. "Private property. Signs are up." I glanced around. Sure enough, the wooden post near the path had a shiny new sign nailed to it. "No tiras passage, PRV land. VALB finand." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. That lake wasn't just water to me. It was memories. My dad and I used to come here every Saturday morning before the sun broke over the pines. We'd pack a thermos of coffee, 2 peanut butter sandwiches, and sit in silence. Not because we didn't have anything to say, but because the world was loud and the lake was peace. But now, peace had a price tag. The officer wrote me up like I was some kind of criminal, 500 fine. I remember holding the ticket in my hand, my fingers trembling, not from anger at him, but from the disbelief that my world, my small piece of happiness, had been sold off like a piece of scrap land. When I got home, my wife, Clara, was waiting on the porch. She saw the look on my face before I even spoke. "They fined you, didn't they?" I nodded, handing her the paper. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "I told you, Mark, these people don't care about history. They care about money." I wanted to argue, but she was right. The land had been sold to a development group. Some city investors who planned to enhance the natural beauty by building luxury cabins and renting out the lake for private fishing clubs. They called it progress. I called it theft. Weeks went by, but I couldn't stay away. Every time I drove past that place, my heart ached. I saw the construction trucks rumbling in, tearing down trees, dredging the banks, pouring concrete. The smell of diesel replaced the scent of pine and rain. The laughter of kids who used to swim there in summer was gone, replaced by the grind of machinery and the emptiness of silence. One evening, I parked my truck on the ridge overlooking the lake. The sun was setting, painting the sky in streaks of orange and gold, the same colors my father loved. I closed my eyes and made a promise right there: one day, I'll bring it back. One day, this lake will be free again. It sounded crazy. I was a mechanic, not a millionaire. I had bills stacked on the counter and barely enough left for groceries, let alone land. But something inside me had shifted, that kind of stubborn fire that only lights up when you lose something sacred. So I started saving. Every extra dollar, every overtime shift, every small job. It all went into a jar labeled freedom. The years passed. Clara stood by me, even when people whispered that I was obsessed. They didn't understand. It wasn't about ownership. It was about legacy, about protecting the last piece of something pure in a world that sold everything. Then, one morning, I got the call. The developers had gone bankrupt. The land was going up for auction. My hands shook as I filled out the paperwork, as I walked into that courthouse with my life savings and a prayer. When the gavel dropped, and the auctioneer said, "Sold," I swear I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. The same lake that fined me, 500, was now mine. And that's when the real story began. Because owning it wasn't the victory. What came next was. The day I took back the lake, the air felt different. Cleaner, sharper, alive. I drove my old truck down the dirt road that used to lead to the public dock, And for the first time in years, it was quiet. No bulldozers, no shouting, just wind and water. Clara was beside me holding my hand. "You really did it," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't do it alone," I said, though in truth, I wasn't sure who had helped me more, my father's memory or sheer stubbornness. We walked down to the shore, the same spot where I was fined years ago. The dock was half rotted, the boards warped from neglect. The waterline had shrunk, weeds tangled the shallows. But to me, it was still beautiful. A wounded thing waiting to heal. That first week, I worked like a man possessed. I rebuilt the dock by hand, cut away the overgrown brush, cleaned the trash the developers left behind. I camped there some nights, falling asleep to the chorus of frogs, feeling the old peace return in small pieces. Word spread fast through the town. Some people stopped by to congratulate me. Old fishermen, neighbors who remembered the lake before the concrete came. But others, well, they weren't happy. Selfish. One of them said at the grocery store, "You locked the gate, Mark. You won't even let us fish anymore." I tried to explain. It's not about keeping people out. It's about protecting the lake until it's ready. The water's sick. The fish are dying. Give it time. They didn't listen. Rumors grew that I'd become arrogant, that I thought I was better than everyone else. I'd been the guy who got fined for trespassing, and now I was the one posting no trespassing signs. The irony wasn't lost on me. Clara urged me to ignore the talk, but it stung. I wasn't trying to hoard the place. I was trying to save it from what they'd done before. The greed, the trash, the noise. Still, it hurt to see old friends turn their backs. Then, one night, the storm came. It started with a low rumble, like the growl of something ancient and angry. By midnight, the wind howled through the trees, and rain hammered against the roof of the small cabin I'd built near the shore. I stepped outside with a flashlight, and my heart sank. The lake was rising fast, angry waves slamming against the dock I'd just rebuilt. Branches snapped. Water rushed down from the hills, brown and wild. I could feel the ground tremble beneath my boots. I shouted for Clara to stay inside and waded into the shallows, trying to secure the lines that held the boats. That's when I saw the headlights. 3 trucks pulling up through the rain. Townspeople. For a split second, I thought they'd come to mock me, maybe even to trespass, just to make a point. But then I saw their faces. Not angry, but determined. "Need a hand, Mark?" One of them yelled over the storm. Before I could answer, they were already knee-deep in the water beside me, tying ropes, driving stakes, pulling debris out of the current. We worked like that for hours, soaked to the bone until the worst of the storm passed. By dawn, the rain had stopped. The dock was damaged, but still standing. The lake was muddy, but still alive. I sat down on the wet ground, exhausted, and looked around at the faces of the men and women who'd once judged me. "Guess we're all trespassing now?" One of them joked weakly. I laughed. The first real laugh in months. "Wes, you are." After that day, something changed. They started coming back. Not to fish, not to camp, but to help. Together we cleaned the shores, replanted trees, rebuilt the trails. Kids painted birdhouses, old folks donated benches. And slowly, the lake healed. It took months, but by spring, the water was clear again. Fish darted through the shallows. Wildflowers lined the banks. The sound of laughter, the sound I'd missed most, returned. One Sunday morning I unlocked the gate. Clara stood beside me, smiling through tears. "You sure about this?" I nodded. "It's not mine anymore. It never really was. It's ours, everyone's." I just had to remind them what it means to take care of something instead of taking it for granted. That afternoon, the townspeople came in droves. Families with coolers, kids with nets, old fishermen with their rods. I watched them spread out along the water, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger or loss. I felt peace. Near sunset, a little boy ran up to me, holding a small vase in his hands. "Mr. Mark." I caught one. I smiled and knelt beside him. "You did? That's a beauty. Go on, Let him back in. He frowned. Why? I want to keep him. I looked out over the lake, the sun turning the water gold. Because this place gives to us only if we give back. He thought for a moment, then nodded and gently released the fish. It swam away, rippling the surface like a promise. That night, as the last families packed up, I stood by the water and whispered to the fading light. We did it, Dad. The lake's free again. I didn't need the 500 fine refunded. I didn't need apologies. The real justice was watching the lake breathe again. Wild, open, alive. Sometimes, the world takes from you what you love most. But if you fight for it, not with anger, but with purpose, you can bring it back stronger than before. So yes, they fined me 500 for fishing. But now the lake is private, and the gates are locked. Not to keep people out, but to keep its heart safe. And when the world's ready to treat it right, I'll unlock it every time.